Hello. I am going to give it a little minute just to wait for everyone to jump in. Um, Good afternoon, and it is so lovely to have everyone here. I'm Lucy. I'm head of marketing and customer at Stripe, and thank you so much for turning up. Um, just while we're waiting for people to kind of trickle in, I'll give a very slow and drawn out kind of intro. But we have had such an amazing response to this webinar. So it's clearly something so many of you are thinking about for your own organizations and your own teams. This is my first webinar kind of running the show for Stripe. Mike, our CEO, is currently away getting married. He's getting married this weekend. So he's handed over the mantle to me for this webinar. So whilst I am really pleased to be reliving my student radio days, it would be so great to have your support today. So the more energy we can get from the chat and the Q&A features, the better. So please don't be a stranger. Go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat just now. Please make sure to switch your messages to everyone. You will see that there is a little drop down in the to box. So please just make sure that's set to everyone and go ahead and tell us where you're from, what your role is, and please feel free to share anything that you want to get out of the session, and keep the chat kind of going throughout as well. It's really great to see all the feedback as the webinar goes on. We really do build these sessions with your feedback in mind, so please keep sharing your thoughts and ideas. And and a little challenge for you. Hi, Daniel. Thank you. Please do post your takeaways on social media as well. We've seen many people do this from our previous Stripe sessions, and it always generates a really interesting conversation between everyone afterwards. These sessions really do live beyond the hour that we spend together here. So it's well worth doing and connecting with people afterwards. It also makes a little difference to us to help us get the word out too. So I can see there's quite a few people that have joined, so we will get going. We've got a really interesting topic to talk about today. So let's jump into it. Organizations have been working to adapt to so many different challenges over the last 2 or 3 years. And these changes haven't just made us adapt to the way that we are trading or operating, but also the way that the employees are thinking, working, and feeling. From COVID, shifting to work from home, Brexit, rising energy bills, various different wars that have been going on, looking at everything, it really is quite something. And amongst all of this, there has been another, possibly more unseen influence that has been changing the way that our teams think and feel. And that is this new generation that is entering our workforce. It's very possible at the moment that you have up to 5 different generations working in your organization currently, from the silent generation, baby boomers, through to Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. Diversity is so incredibly powerful and essential thing for every organization. But a multi-generational workforce can introduce challenges for both HR leaders and business leaders too. These generations have very different perspectives and expectations on what is valued in the workplace. And all of these things can create kind of distinct management challenges and influence the engagement, productivity, and culture of a team. We're going to aim to unpick some of these challenges today and hopefully give you some really tangible takeaways that you can use to harness the power of your multi-generational workforce and ultimately create a happier team. So that's my introduction done, and I couldn't be more excited to be joined by our guest, Rebekah, today. She is currently head of people and performance at the award-winning Tangerine PR, who boasts an incredible roster of clients from Specsavers, Dunelm, Stagecoach, and Vimto. And before Tangerine, she worked for the bar and restaurant group, The Alchemist. So I couldn't think of anyone better placed to talk about this topic. Today is going to be a pure Q&A. I have some questions, but we are really here for you. So please do drop your questions into the Q&A box, and we'll be sure to prioritize any questions that are upvoted. So make sure that you're clicking on the ones that are interesting to you. If we can't get through all the questions today, we'll make sure to get the answer from Rebekah and include anything in our follow-up for you all, so you don't miss out on any of the knowledge that we get from her. So after that, Rebekah, welcome.
Hello. Hi.
Did you want to give a bit of an introduction into your career so far, and maybe just give us some insights into a few of the things you're working on at Tangerine at the moment?
Yeah, of course. So experience-wise, I've always been in generalist roles and usually startup roles as well. So implementing new initiatives to companies, which is really interesting. And that's exactly what my role is today at Tangerine. So being their first dedicated HR hire, as they've grown over 50% in recent years. In the recent year and a half, essentially. So it's massive growth. So just catching up with people, initiatives, and ensuring everything's in place just to create the best culture that we can for everyone at Tangerine and the different diverse workforce that we have. So from HR systems to engagement systems, benefits, everything that falls as part of a good HR plan is something we're working on at the moment. So yeah, very busy department we've got that we've built in recent months. So it's an exciting place to be.
Big job, very big job.
Yeah, it's a big challenge, but it's a great one.
How did you find being one of the first HR in a business like that?
Yeah, it's interesting because you got to get the buy-in, I suppose, of everybody, because they've not had that HR presence before. So I think that's the first challenge is having that buy-in and showing the value that HR can add and all the different initiatives and the value that can have for different people across the business. So showcasing that, getting feedback on what people are thinking and adapting the ways that we work to show that, the benefits that HR has, which is so many benefits, and the wide range of things that HR do and are part of that affects all different elements of the day-to-day operations of the business.
Sure. So you touched on a few of them in your intro, but when it comes to those new employee engagement initiatives at Tangerine, where do you even start, especially when you're coming in as that new HR person? Yeah. And, just to bring in a bit of the theme of the webinar, how do you start to consider the multi-generational kind of workforce that you're in at the moment?
Yeah, so a starting point for anyone in any business is just looking at what's already in place. Is a good way to start, and then building from there. But I think also understanding what people want and what the generation makeup of the company is initially is really important. So you can start building your plans around that. So yeah, feedback has been really important. So different pieces of survey information that we've been gathering, just to understand what people like about what we do now and things that they want to see in the future, what's important to them, and of course with different generations that we have in the business, those demands and needs are quite different. So it's about shaping our plan around that essentially. And then also that evolves, as we grow, different roles that we're having in the business as well. So yeah, I think feedback and engagement tools are really, really good for that. So just giving people what they want rather than making something up that you think's right. It's listening to the employee voice, which at Tangerine they already do very well. Really good communication throughout the company. So we know what people are happy with and maybe what they're not happy with, or what they're looking for us to include in their offering.
For sure. And feedback is such an important one as well, because not everyone is always forthcoming giving maybe unsolicited opinions. So you really do have to create that culture where everyone feels comfortable kind of giving feedback or speaking up. And I was doing some research for this webinar, and a lot of what they're saying is, obviously with these multi-generational workforces, there's no one size fits all. Every generation, every kind of segment of your workforce is very, very different in the way they like to engage and give feedback. So how have you, what systems do you have in place at Tangerine to really make sure that everyone's voice is heard?
Yeah, so the surveys we do, we tend to keep them anonymous. I feel that opens up people to share more essentially. Because we're employee owned, we also have a partnership board, so a lot of things come through there, so people's voices can be heard. So that's a good platform. We also have Strive as well, which is has been really good, because it's like the anonymous feedback section. We found people are using that. Now they know it's a tool they can use at their disposal to share their thoughts and things they want us to consider. And I think the main thing from gathering that information is feeding back what you're doing with that information. So you build that trust and buy-in from people, that they're not just giving you information that's forgotten about. You are doing something with that information. Or if that's not something you can do something with, then just explaining the reasons why. So I think it's important, every idea and everything that comes through, what people want, you maintain that plan and feedback to them. I think is really important for the trust element as well, which helps.
For sure, that two-way communication, we see it all the time. If you are take, it doesn't matter who you are, you're going to stop giving that feedback and end up disengaging that workforce as well. Yeah. So you talked a lot about kind of listening to that feedback and adapting approaches as you go. So how do you adapt your approach when it comes to employee wellbeing for each of those generations? So is there anything specific you're considering when you're looking at feedback and thinking about new initiatives at all?
Yeah, so I'd say that the benefits package, for example, I think that's something where multi-generational information really does shape, benefits package. But I feel like the one we have at the moment, it does cover a lot of different generations, but it is something that we want to build on and adapt, with these suggestions that people are giving. So I think, yeah, so shaping what we already have, so like benefits and finding benefits that do cater to all, like healthcare initiatives that maybe have different things like fitness involved for different generations, or health initiatives, and then just tailoring things. Like we have really generous training budget here at Tangerine, and we also deliver training sessions in a calendar month by month, tons of different things that people can join on to. So making sure that represents the workforce and the suggestions that people put through, the things that they're looking for us to provide to them. And getting feedback on that eventually to see if it's the right approach. And if it's not, adapting and moving with that is what we do at the moment. So yeah.
No, that sounds really, really interesting. And I like that you do consider those kind of segments when you're, and particularly the feedback part of it as well. I think that's really, really, really important. I guess just building on that, we're talking about kind of current systems, but when you're thinking about those new employee engagement initiatives, is there anything like that you look to do at the start, and really bringing in the generations into that? Is there any, is there something that you've started since you joined at Tangerine that you could maybe talk us through from start to finish?
Yeah, is in new tools that help us engage.
Yeah, or a wellbeing initiative, or anything kind of like that.
Yeah, so introducing the Stripe system was a really big one for us. And what we've done on there now is we've got, it's like a resources section, which I think helps. It basically all the information that everybody would need to know what the culture is, what the journey is, what the package is, what everything at Tangerine is. So that's easily accessible. Which I think really helps, is having a portal where people can go themselves to learn about what we offer. So that's been really, really useful. And we've created different like fact sheets and information sheets of all different areas. I think having clear communications on everything that you offer and everything that you do, even just down to policies and procedures, all available for people to access, really helps meet the different needs of different people. Other things that we do is we have staff meetings every month, which is mandatory for everybody to get together, which I think now we're post-COVID is something we're doing, which I think really helps bring everybody together to understand our culture, and just to mix with people that they might not ordinarily mix with in different teams, and therefore different generations, different ways of of thinking, ways of working, sharing best practice. And then, we also, which I think is a really good thing that we do, is we have committees for different areas, like a charity committee, social committee, wellbeing committee, and a D&I committee. So anyone in the business can volunteer, some of their working hours to do something other than what's, their day-to-day, which I think is another really good way to get people together, thinking about different things than their day-to-day, and sharing ideas from different perspectives. And going back to the generational piece, some of our initiatives come from those groups, which has a nice representation of the world and also the company that we're in. So we've created initiatives from that. We've created training programs from that. Just getting everybody involved in the things we do, so it meets everybody's demands and expectations, essentially. So lots of things going on, lots of things to come as well, with different like e-learning and tons of things, and more of a regular pulse survey set up, which will be great. There's a lot going on around the area to make sure the culture that we're creating represents the people that work for us, and also the people that we want to attract to work for us, because with being in the communication industry, it's important that our voice and the work we do just represent the clients, but also the world that we live in, essentially.
For sure. And I think the things that you're talking about are so important as well, because I know from having worked in a previous company, the generations tend to kind of group together a little bit, and often organizations can be a bit poorer for that. And we've seen in research that multi-generational teams, if they are really in sync and meshing well, there's better decision making. You get those really lovely different perspectives as well. So the fact that you have those structures there to really bring that together,
to bring all the mixture of voices. Another thing we do is doesn't work for all companies, but hot desking I think really helps with that. So people are not maybe stuck or sat where somewhere's more comfortable for them. It's mixing around, and we encourage that, so you hear different ideas from different people and learn different ways of maybe dealing with a client situation or things like that. So I think that really helps, is just mingling with different people across the business on different days, with different perspectives ultimately.
For sure. And that like learning, even if that it's informal, the learning and mentoring opportunities are so invaluable from that perspective as well.
Exactly.
And you mentioned something as well about obviously your kind of employee proposition in terms of recruiting, and I think that's really, really interesting, because there is a bit of a challenge, I guess, with certain businesses in certain sectors, coming from a kind of software and a tech startup background ourselves. We're all really aware of presenting ourselves in a certain way so we can make sure we're attracting a really diverse range of candidates, because we know traditionally we would attract those kind of millennial age groups. Is that kind of, how do you put thought into that from your perspective? Because I assume that you're probably in a similar situation where you do have a tendency to attract a certain kind of thing.
Definitely. I mean, even where I've worked previously, it tends to be more the Generation Z and millennial pool of people. I do think, so I did see an interesting fact that by 2025, 75% of the workforce will be millennials. So wow. I feel, it's a lot, isn't it? So I feel that probably will be essentially the pool is just that demographic, isn't it? So I think it's important in a way you advertise your roles, and shouting about the benefits and the culture that you have, and obviously in the hopes that reflects a multi-generational workforce and meets different demands. So we pay key attention to that, and our benefits really do hit different demographics in that way. I think benefits, obviously the job itself is really attractive. It's very digital agency, but benefits are a really strong factor in people's decision making when looking for a job. So I think we do well at that. There's also language, I suppose, in the adverts, particularly Generation Z. It's quite social focused, and so ensuring our social platforms, and the recruitment ads that we put on there are consistent, so we can get that attention from that generation, which naturally some of our roles will be people from that generation, some of our maybe more junior roles, for example. So yeah, I think it's the way you advertise your roles, but also the way you do your job description, and then your benefits package needs to represent a wider workforce, and then also where you advertise your role as well, I think is really important. So having it on a variety of different platforms to attract people. Different generations do use different recruitment tools and platforms, so that's important. And then making your application process as simple, as streamlined as possible, which is something that we're trying to do by having an ATS system in place, and hopefully in the next few weeks. So that will allow people to they'll have a better experience with applying to us. So for example, Gen Z want a quick process you can do it on your phone, upload your CV really quickly. So it's just quite a fast-paced application process. So meeting the demands of that as well is really important.
I think inclusivity is something that we often look at from a different perspective and don't necessarily think about age, and particularly when you're applying for jobs and things like that, the different kind of platforms and the effect that may have on who you're attracting. So that's really interesting. And just kind of continuing on that theme, I guess, you mentioned about the hot desking and bits and bobs like that, but when you're talking about kind of creating that inclusive environment for everyone, really, what are you doing at Tangerine right now? Because it is such a difficult time for employers. I know we're still exploring the hybrid working.
Yeah.
We're still kind of adjusting to working from home or not. I know a lot of businesses that we're working with have opened up hiring around the world, so they're also looking at kind of managing employees in different time zones. I know we certainly are. How are you kind of working with that to make sure that everything is inclusive?
So we're working in a hybrid agile model at the moment. We prefer people to come into the office a few days a week. That, like I said, the connections, the collaboration, and learning from different people. And then we've also, like I said, do different things like the staff meeting. We have nice things that people encourage people to come in for, which really helps. And then I think having the different platforms, like the Stripe platform, where we shout about different things that are going on, different things that people are doing, and having really good comms, which we do have, and then the staff meeting helps keep the culture alive whilst people are working from home. In terms of geographic locations, we are quite Manchester based, but we do have people dotted around the UK. Just through COVID, we did hire people who weren't Manchester based. It worked at that time. So ensuring, when we do our staff meeting, for example, it is available for people to join remotely, and trying to make a lot of the things we do accessible to remote workers, I think, is important as well. But then I think having the initiatives to get people to come in is another important thing. So we do, we have someone come in and do breakfasts and things like that, or we have something called Thursday Bar here every Thursday. So hopefully people come in and mingle with one another, and just share their thoughts, and they get a feel for the culture at Tangerine. But definitely a different world that we live in now, for sure. But it works for the type of company that we are. But the collaboration aspect, is always thrives in person, for sure.
It's that hybrid. I think it sounds like you've got a great balance there, because I know it's so hard in terms of thinking about that mental health and well-being aspect of the workforce, having people work from home all the time, I'm trying to keep my hands up so that you can see my gestures, but actually if we are just head and shoulders on a screen, it's very difficult to see body language. And especially when you're thinking about communicating with colleagues that are maybe older or younger than you and aren't necessarily used to your way of working, it can be very, very difficult. So I guess, how have you found kind of managing everyone's mental health and well-being in that hybrid work? And what have you put in place to kind of make sure that everyone is feeling included and that they can talk up about those kinds of things?
Yeah, so a few things we do quite regularly. We've had one today. We have speakers coming in, available to watch remotely, so they're available remotely, but we have like resilience speakers, mental health speakers. We've got tons of mental health first aid trained people in business as well, and we do shout about who those people are. We also offer contributions to therapy and things like that. We've got our health insurance package that covers that element. So yeah, lots of things available, and we do really shout about it. And because we have that wellbeing committee, it allows, that's a channel where a lot of things come through and ideas come through. But yeah, the speakers have been really good, because it's good to have an outside perspective on that topic, of course, and obviously we're not trained in that area, so that's been really good. The uptake on that's great, and people really feedback. But the culture here is great for people feeling comfortable to talk about different things that they've got going on personally. We speak about mental health a lot here, and we invest a lot into that, so it creates a really positive environment for people. So it's feel we work in that space really well, as best as we can.
Oh, it sounds like, I think it is really important for businesses to signal that they are open to hearing about those things as well, and having things like those speakers in place is really important. It's all very well having mechanisms for employees to speak up, but often you're still putting the onus on the employees to put their energy into fixing their problem, whereas actually having things like talks, maybe not directly kind of making them speak up, but it's giving them more space to think about the fact that they are in a business that really does care and want to hear about them. So, and it's great that you have so many different ways of showing them that as well.
Yeah, lots of different ways. So so it's clear that our stance on it is hopefully made clear through the different things that we do. And then we keep it regular as well. In Mental Health Awareness Week this week, Stress Awareness Month, for example. So we've had a few different speakers in, for that purpose. So yeah, just keeping those, I mentioned we've got a regular calendar of training events, just having, different areas covered in mental health is something that's consistent, slots in our agenda. So yeah, keeping it at the forefront of people's agenda, essentially. And we also do mental health training for all our line managers as well. So so how to deal with different situations, and also the line of what's for them to deal with and what's for the medical professional to deal with. So that's really helped people have the confidence to pick up on signs in their own teams as well. Especially remote working might be harder to pick up on the signals, on Zoom and Teams and things like that. But maybe if someone's had their camera off, or they're not really speaking in a meeting, just creating scenario-based moments, so line managers feel equipped to handle those types of situations as well.
I was going to ask about managers, actually. Hannah, I can see you've asked a question, so we will get to it. But I feel like we're on a good flow for the moment. So managers are on the front line of every team, and they are the ones that probably out of the business will spend the most time with their colleagues and with their managers. And but they can also be the ones, because of that, they've risen through the ranks because of their talents, and aren't necessarily always the ones that are best equipped from in terms of managing mental health conversations and all of these other things that come with being a line manager. It's a huge responsibility, and I think they are in the right place to spot any changes in their colleagues, whether that's productivity, or they're just not, talking as much in a meeting, or, maybe their appearance has changed, and all of these things that can indicate changes. And how, you've mentioned a couple of bits there, but what else, is there anything else you do with your managers, particularly because I'm assuming you've probably got line managers that do manage quite an age range as well at Tangerine, which can add another kind of layer of difficulty.
So things we do is anyone that becomes a line manager or is already a line manager, we do line management training. So for any new line managers, they go on a training course, so we run it twice a year. And then also we do management refresher courses as well, mandatory for everybody to attend. So they learn different things about dealing with different complex situations, spotting signs, how to be the best line manager, get the best out of their team, tailoring their approach to different individuals, which is also important because people like to be managed in different ways, but also maintaining consistency and in line with our values as well. Additionally, we have created like a big line management document, which is really helpful. Just tips and things like that, which help line managers. But then also having a really strong HR department and senior team to help with coaching and mentoring people. I think just those one-to-one conversations with line managers. And then drawing on previous experience that you've had, maybe a similar situation also really helps as well. So I think having good resources, good training, but then also a really supportive team around you definitely really helps. So we do, and then just different training that we have, like the resilience training, mental health stuff that I mentioned. Also taking away skills from that and using that within your own team provides useful as well.
Awesome. And Hannah, it's your time to shine. So her question is, how has it been adjusting to Tangerine in terms of the ages of employees you've been looking after? Because she's imagining that from Alchemist you probably had a younger employee base. So I guess what is the difference?
True. Yeah, younger base, I suppose, completely different roles. Completely different views on a lot of different things essentially. So I suppose it was different to go to firstly a different industry and then also a different demographic. I mean, there are definitely overlaps, like there are Gen Z, millennials in hospitality, and then also in the industry that I'm in at the moment. But I think it's just about understanding the people that you work with and trying to embed yourself in different conversations, and understanding their wants and needs. And I think the survey work really helps with creating that picture of the company that you're currently in and what those needs and wants are from those people. So it's just you're collecting raw data essentially that helps, of course, as well as speaking with different people and seeing what the company already does. And I think it's just important, when you're new to a new industry or a new demographic, is to spend time with a variety of people across the business, to understand the way they work, the way they think, and what they expect from the place that they work. So just also verbal conversations, but then also a really good survey definitely helps with that. And then doing those regularly as well, because demographics naturally change. With the demands of the business, if you've got more junior staff coming in, so keeping that regular and not just relying on one set of data, because things continually evolve and change, and generational makeup of company could be different from a few years down the line, especially in an industry like a digital industry like this. But I'd say there's still a mixture of generations in hospitality, because there's an operations team, it's a big operation of different generations. So it is quite, I did find it quite transferable actually.
Good. Thank you for the question, Hannah. If anyone else has any questions, please don't be shy. Pop them through in either the Q&A box or the chat. I still have a few more, but yours will absolutely take precedence. So any that get put in, please do make sure they're in quite quickly. You've talked about feedback throughout this conversation, so it clearly is a key pillar for you in your work, and you mentioned surveys as part of that. So I guess for people that are just starting out, because we do often find with these webinars that that's kind of a question that comes up a lot from our audience, is how do you even go about kind of picking your questions that you want to ask? Where do you start, especially for yourself, where you're new in a role and you maybe don't have that historical knowledge that someone who's been in an HR team for a few years within the same business would have? And then the second part to the question would be, where do you start with the data once you have it? What kind of demographics are important to you, and how do you manage that through into something that's really tangible for the employees?
Yeah, so questions wise, I suppose, like setting up that agenda of what I want to ask and things like that. I suppose it's firstly asking questions about things that are already in place and understanding how people feel about those things. And then secondly, I think it's important to understand the things that they want to see as well. So I think separating the two elements was important to me, just to do a bit of analysis on what we have, and that will shape the direction of do we keep the things we have, or do we implement new things? What do we need to do in that aspect? Of course, there's lots of new things that people want, so there's lots to develop in that area. Questions wise, I suppose just a lot of research as well, and just thinking back to your history of previous places that you've worked at, because ultimately a lot of people want the same things, whether in communication or hospitality or wherever else. So yeah, think about things you've done in the past. Surveys, essentially you've done in the past as well, is really helpful. I think also in those, keeping them quite simple in the questions you ask and the options that you provide, and as short and condensed as possible, as to ensure people actually fill them out and are encouraged to do so. I think the use of pulse surveys after doing like a larger scale survey to keep things going is a much better way to do it, because you're getting live current feeling and feedback, but it's also not taking people's time, so you're getting more of it as well. And then also, if you're doing it in smaller chunks like that, after you've done your initial analysis and things like that, I think it's more manageable essentially. You're meeting people's expectations in a more manageable way. And then from there, setting your strategy for the year, looking at what you've got, looking at things you can get, budget wise behind that. It did really shape the strategy of the way we work, things that maybe people feel are missing, and implementing those. The second part of the question.
What do you do with the data? Once the results are in, how do you slice and dice it? Is there any particular demographics you focus on or look at that might be of interest, and how do you use it to shape the strategy?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at all of the demographics, which it's easy to get that type of data anyway. And I think as well, when you're doing your survey, it's good to ask demographic questions before you lead on to your specific questions of the information you're trying to gain about people's wants and needs, things like that. So then you can understand a pattern and a trend potentially, from that demographic. I think it's just interesting to know that as well. Mm-hmm. And you can also use that as an information tool to see if there's cross-generational pieces of things that they want as well from a business, which you'll find there are differences in the generations, but I feel at the core people do want a lot of the same things essentially. So essentially using the data to then create your strategy, implement new things, ensure everybody's happy with those new things, and just improve people's ways of working. So from ours, for example, training's a massive thing that's important, I think, across generationally. So that's something we have a massive focus on, is training. Benefits, I think our benefits, people spoke very highly of those, so they work really well. But there are other benefits that we can look into. as an example. And then, pay and packages and things like that is, so we ensuring that we benchmark regularly is something that which we do anyway, so to make sure we're competitive as well in the market. So I think, one of the main things that came out of it is training and development is really important to everybody. So I think people want more than just doing their job, but they want to be able to take some things away from that, whether it be managerial skills, leadership skills, also some more generic transferable skills as well is really useful for people.
It's really interesting actually, because when I was reading into kind of the drivers of every generation, it was showing that the older generation are often overlooked for training and kind of progression opportunities for whatever reason, but it's actually one of their biggest drivers. And then kind of as you move through to the younger generations, training and development is definitely still a key part, but it actually kind of manifests itself in a different way. So for Gen Z, it's very much like they're very, very happy to stay in a business for life if they are feeling like they're developing, but in line with that core purpose. So they really have to align to that core purpose of the business and really be brought into the mission and vision. Whereas millennials are kind of, really, really love that kind of progression and
having it planned out and mapped out for them is really important, which is something we're working on, is which I think we do well, but it's also good to document these things. So I think most generations, particularly millennials, appreciate like a framework or a progression plan of the different steps that are involved to get to where they want to get to. So I think it's important to set out that type of framework and have that available for everybody as well. It's a really good tool.
That's one thing I've learned as a line manager over the years is structure. Every human being needs structure, and I think we often forget about it ourselves a lot, but we also forget about it for others. And structure, it's actually my old manager that taught me that, is if you've got a little bit of structure, people can do wonders with that.
Definitely. Instead of just assuming that people are on that journey with you, it's will understand things that you're trying to achieve, just laying it out and what that means for them, and having that written down is really important.
That might be my millennial ways though. Maybe that is just me being a stereotype. Daniel has got a great question and a lovely compliment. Thank you, Daniel. He says, how often are you asking your employees for feedback? They're currently doing it monthly, but he thinks he needs to speed this up to see some clearer trends in workforce and to be able to get more data as well. So what's kind of your frequency on this? And I can add some colour from what we know from our customers.
So I think doing a larger survey, monthly or bi-monthly, depending on what the survey is for, I suppose the different types. But I think one thing that we found really helpful is to do shorter surveys / pulse surveys at least every 2 weeks. And one thing we're doing at the moment, which we have started doing, but we'll try and plot it up in a more organised way for the year, is having a schedule of particular questions you ask every so often, obviously, so you've got information that you can measure, and then see more data. So I think doing some type of question, not the big survey. I think the one that I do is every other month, is usually a good starting point. But then in between, having really key specific questions, and I think it's important to tailor those questions to outcomes. So if you ask a question, just ensuring that there's something you can do as a result of the results that you get. It's important, but I feel like you'll know a lot more on this topic than I.
just different, but you're so right. So I think when you're thinking about the structure of your questions, I always say plan everything right through. So you may have an idea of the questions or the topic that you want to look at, but have a think about what that will look like depending on how the outcome is. So I always tell our customers, what if that question comes back with a really bad score, and what if it comes back with a really good score? What's your business going to do based on that? And that gives you a bit of prep time to have a think about how that's going to look and if it's a sensible question to ask, and if you can make those changes for your employees, because that's one we've thing we've said the whole way through this talk is you can ask for as much feedback as you want, but if you're not going to act on it, you really, you should be maybe putting a pause on that question. It also means it's not so much of a surprise for your management team if things do come back a certain way from what they weren't expecting. So it gives people time to process scores. What we have seen in the past is if a score comes back a certain way and it isn't necessarily the way that they expected, it can put a halt on any other questions in the future because people kind of feel like they need to rethink a strategy. So always work backwards, start with the results. And then in terms of the cadence of those questions, I would just say when you're doing that planning and you're thinking about the changes based on your hypothesis of which way that data is going to go, just have a think about how quickly you can put that change in place. So, because it is really important for employees to be able to see a response or a change before they're being asked to contribute to something again. So if you are in quite a fast-paced organization, you could probably get away with, weekly or fortnightly, obviously taking into account things like survey fatigue as well. But giving that feedback to employees does go some way to mitigating that. Something else I will say, which Rebekah hit the nail on the head with, is having a think about those two types of questions. So having a question that is maybe slightly more open and hits a kind of higher theme. So, how are their well-being or mental health in a month? How was their month? How was their week this week? Something like that will just help surface anything that's bubbling that you haven't yet picked up on. And that means that you can then tailor those more specific questions that you have planned in for kind of alternating between the kind of more generic ones and the specific ones. It means you can really drill down into anything that's coming up. So Daniel, if you are struggling with looking for trends, I would maybe suggest if you do some kind of higher level questions first, and that will help see what's bubbling under the surface that you can maybe drill down into with your more specific questions. And if you do want to pop me an email for some inspiration and some questions that we use with our customers, I'm more than happy to do that. Just pop me a message maybe on LinkedIn and we can sort that out. But just if anyone else has any, I do have a question here. Sarah Murray, you keep talking really highly of your benefits. Can you give some examples of the benefits that help with recruitment across the generations?
Yeah, so a big one I'd say is our health insurance benefit. So not only is it providing health insurance for different things that might happen to do with your health and mental health, but it also is like a reward system type of thing. So the more points you earn, the different things you can have is like 50% off gym memberships, free coffees, you get free access to the mindfulness apps as well. Cinema tickets if you get enough points. That is a really good benefit because I feel generationally it covers a lot of people. So maybe people are more concerned with their health and having that private support there. But then also people who are into the fitness and things like that, it really encourages that. So we found it's a benefit that we give to everybody. We've noticed that people use it in completely different ways as well. So I think that's a really good benefit that we have. We offer people a training budget every year. So it's a really generous training budget, which I think is a good multi-generational benefit because you ultimately can use that towards any professional training that you want to do or an event that you want to go to, or something like that. So I think that's a really good benefit that you can tailor to your personal needs, which is a really good one. Agile working, I suppose call it a benefit, but I feel like it's just the way we work now. But again, that meets people's different needs, childcare needs, or hobby needs, whatever they have that's important to them. So work can fit around that essentially, and that flexibility. And then we have really good enhanced leave packages, paternity, maternity, sickness. So again, that probably fits maybe some more one generation, but I feel like the enhanced sickness element is really good. Another thing we do as well, which is a great benefit, is sabbatical leave. People that have been with us for a certain period of time, which I feel really is attractive to Gen Z. So it allows you like a good chunk of time if you want to explore or do a bit of traveling. That's a really, really positive benefit as well. That if your business can accommodate it, I think you attract a lot of people with that benefit. And then we also have a profit share, which I think is a multi-generational benefit. So yeah, financial benefit, which appeals to everybody essentially. Because we're employee owned, everybody gets a proportion of the profit share. That's a really good benefit. And then, I suppose holidays, but it seems almost a standard these days to have a good holiday package. A little extra we do is people get their birthday off, which I think is quite nice.
That is nice.
But yeah, a few different benefits, and I feel the ones we have are quite broad, so they do meet different people's demands.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Is even though one specific benefit may not hit the right spot for every generation, you've got such a variety of different things that it does speak to everyone. The sabbatical is really interesting actually, because I think obviously as businesses move through the years and we do start to see those Gen Z kind of entering the workforce, the traditional benefits set up that we are used to as employees will need to shift a little bit, and sabbaticals I feel are quite rare right now, and possibly the benefits that Gen Z will really will attract Gen Zers, but actually it's something I guess businesses are going to have to start thinking about is how they shift their package. Yeah,
exactly. And not just assuming what people want as well, I think, or stereotyping generation is really important. And yeah, just listening to the people that are around you, rather than just Googling what Gen Z wants. You ask a Gen Z, what is it that you look for, and trying to tailor your package to that. So that's a good package that we have, but it's evolving and will continue to change with the times that we live in, but also the demographic of our workforce. It's important to keep adapting essentially, but to have a nice selection. I also think something that has worked in previous places where I've worked is benefit packages where you select the benefits that work for you. So you can tailor your benefits package to the things that are important to you. I think is a really good way to do it. Moving forward, in the world that we live in, with a good tailored approach.
That's nice. And just I guess on access and tailoring as well, because you talked about having that open budget for training and development. Do you find that different generations put their hands up for those types of benefits more than others? Because I can imagine, I know just from my own colleagues, there are definitely some that are more confident in saying yes for certain things than others. And how do you make sure that everyone does feel like they can access that and,
that's a true
make the most
point.
of it?
Yes, I suppose it's marketing it to your employees is really important. Reminding them that's a benefit, which is what we do. Another thing that we want to do going forward is to have like a catalogue of different training that could work for different roles, or things like that. So it helps encourage people that we do want them to use that benefit, but also gives guidance as well, to know that it's a benefit that's for everybody, and not to be afraid or shy to use that benefit. But yeah, we do shout about it a lot and remind people to use that, and then also rely on the line managers to encourage people to use that benefit, especially with appraisals. It's a great opportunity to have that resource as well, as a part of the process. But yeah, we definitely advertising and keep advertising it internally for encouragement. And I think if people have the thing we're working on with like a nice library of different things that they don't have to do that particular course or whatever it is, but it might help encourage the use of that benefit as well. It takes out a bit of that element of having to search for something. That's a nice catalogue, and you can say, that's my role, this looks like a great opportunity for me, type of things. That's something we're working on.
I think and what you just touched on there was really interesting as well, because you're talking about using a lot of systems that are already in place, which I think is often where you know, things can go a little bit wonky sometimes, is you're trying to do something new and you're creating this whole new ecosystem of things for an employee, where, you know, you're talking about using the line management structure and your file structure that you've already got for the directory and things like that. So I think that just kind of popped into my head as a good tip for anyone that's thinking of getting going with this kind of thing. And, you know, you are feeling like there's a segment of employees that aren't making the most of their benefits, is just have a look at the channels that you've already got in place and see if there's anything you can do to maximize them rather than create something new. Because you're gonna have more of an uphill battle, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And it can sometimes be as simple as creating like a manual or a document that's shared across the business or uploaded to, you know, your resource library, and just shouting about that. So I suppose cheap but, you know, cost-effective way to remind people of the things you do, but then also you support your line managers as well. And so they have the information that they need to get the best out of people, and people to get the best out of the company as well. So.
Cool. Well, we are nearly done for the afternoon. If anyone has any burning questions that they want to sneak in under the line, please do put them in now. I'm going to ask Rebekah one more thing, and that is, I guess, if there was, I don't know, a couple of things that our audience should take away from today, what would you really say is the kind of winning things that you found for Tangerine in terms of that multi-generational workforce and keeping them happy?
Yeah, I'd say my number one thing is communication, and not making assumptions, but listening to the people around you, the people you work with, and yeah, employee voice essentially is for me the most important thing, and developing any strategies, any things you implement with the voice and the thoughts, opinions, suggestions from your workforce, because that then creates the environment that they want to be in, and you know, it's happy people all around. You're not creating something that, you know, won't have the buy-in, which is, you know, nobody wants that from either side. You know, you want the initiatives that you're creating to really shine through, and then just to see the benefit of that in people's lives, whether it be the training that they've received and how that's helping them in their job or with their confidence, or, you know, a talk they've been to that's helping with their mental health, or, you know, one of the benefits that they're using that's, yeah, you know, done wonders for them personally, professionally, and just their career and beyond. So yeah, just listen to everybody around you.
Perfect, thank you. Well, I haven't seen anything else come through, but if anyone does have any other questions, I know it often happens where you jump off a webinar and you think, oh, I wish I'd asked X, Y, or Z. Please do reach out to myself or Rebekah on LinkedIn. And I think with the follow-up email that will come out to everyone after this, we'll have some contact details for myself, and I can reach out to Rebekah and pass anything on to her as well, if you would prefer to do it that way. So I think, just to close, what we've learned today is there's definitely no one-size-fits-all approach to this problem. There's a lot of different things that we need to adapt and do as businesses to make sure that we are, you know, supporting all of the generations that are coming through in our workforce, from adapting communication styles to working on our employee value propositions, fine-tuning the hiring process, and being super aware of where different generations are kind of applying and how they like to apply for their roles. But the thing that really underpinned it for me, and I think, Rebekah, you've hit it on the head as well, is that feedback and that employee voice, and how we can really use that and harness that to adapt and grow as the generations change, particularly over the next kind of 5 to 10 years. We're really going to see that shift. So the more we can gather data and feedback, it's clear that that's going to be the thing that gives that competitive edge to businesses as they move through. So thank you so much, Rebekah. You have been an absolute star, and it's been so much fun to talk to you. And to our audience, you have been fab too. Thank you for being so lovely and so supportive throughout this. I feel like we've definitely thrived, not survived. I was going to say we've survived, but I'm going to say we've thrived in this webinar. We've done a good job. audience, please head to LinkedIn and pop Rebekah a thank you message if you have time. And if there are any unanswered questions, please do message me. Or if you are interested in chatting more to myself and the team about Stripe and our employee engagement software, we do help with gathering feedback, pulse surveys and the like. And specifically focused around creating those happy multi-generational teams. So pop us an email. Our email is hello@stribehq.com, or you can head to our website, stribehq.com, to hear more too. But if that is everything from everyone, then thank you so much for joining us all. And thank you again to Rebekah. And we will see you all for the next Stripe sessions very, very soon. Goodbye.
Bye.